Julie Chen Called Me Moonves recently did an interview with Entertainment Weekly where she defended the cookout, saying that it's not racist. Now here is what she said exactly. She stated, quote, I think it's hard for some people who are not of color to understand the importance of the cookout making it this far. I have heard some call the formation of the cookout a form of racism. In my humble opinion, it is not. As a fan of the show, it's impressive to see an alliance this big make it this far. That rarely happens. Okay, let's just break down this bullshit that this adulterer said, this Bible toting adulterer has said. Now, she states that it's hard for some people who are not of color. Okay, she's trying to brand this as a POC alliance. But no, bitch, this is a black alliance. And the house guests and the people on Twitter make it more than clear that this is a black alliance. Because, Derek Zhao, your fellow Chinese brethren, he wasn't considered as a member of the cookout. And they targeted him because he was not black. So trying to sugarcoat this by saying, oh, it's just a POC alliance, while not making it clear that it is a black alliance, is just insincere. And you're full of shit. And she also says that people view the formation of the Cookout Alliance as some form of racism. There is no form of racism. There is no reverse racism. It's just racism. And that's what this is. And it just brings me back to 2013 when she grilled Aaron after she was evicted. Bringing Aaron to task over her behavior in the house, where she acted all offended. But now I'm saying Julie Chen needs to apologize to Aaron. Apologize for being full of shit when she pretended to be oh so offended by the racism that went on during the season. Because according to Julie Chen, when people form an alliance based on race, that is not offensive to her. And when Derek Zhao, a fellow Chinese person, because Julie Chen is Chinese, when he gets targeted by this all black, black power racist alliance, she has nothing to say about it. Instead, she tries to sugarcoat it. So it just takes me back to 2013 that this bitch was just disingenuous about confronting Aaron. Unless she's okay with certain groups of people being racist against Asians versus others, which, I don't know how she comprehends that in her mind. I mean, she'd rather be sucker punched while walking down the street by a black person than someone who looks like Aaron. I mean, if so, then she's fucking retarded. But anyway, that's what Julie Chen said, and through Julie Chen, it's CBS endorsing this alliance. You know, Julie Chen Called Me Moonves. And I don't even need to address the bullshit that her husband went through. I mean, that's a different issue, but it just goes to show you that she has no issue associating herself with questionable bullshit. And this cookout alliance and her defense of it, her hypocritical defense of it, is just the latest example of her associating herself with more than questionable things. Now let's move on into this week, or leading up to this week, where Claire went on the block because she's white. But before that happened, Tiffany was canoodling with Kylan in her bed. Uh, it was September the 5th, to be exact. You know, in the morning time, late in the morning, or I should say early in the morning, it was still night out. But anyway, they were canoodling in the bed. And her thirsty ass just was rubbing all up against him. I don't know if this was a strategy on her part to try to win him over, but he wasn't moving. All she did was shamelessly rub herself up against him and then finger banged herself. And you can hear her audibly moan after she climaxes from finger banging herself and rubbing up against him. And people cheerleaded this shit, saying, "Oh, aren't they adorable? The showmans that I never thought I needed." Like, clearly Kylan was not into this shit. It's like fucking pathetic. I mean, people went in on Danielle Murphy for trying to rub up against Shane when he was clearly not interested, but they're praising this bitch. You even had people on Twitter proudly stating how hypocritical that they are because their reaction to this rub up with Tiffany on Kylan, their reaction was, "Oh, Kylan gets a pass now," because they thought that Tiffany won Kylan over with that, finger banger herself up against him. And these people on Big Brother Woke Twitter, they make it plain that they have no shame in their game as far as being a hypocrite. They even announce themselves that they're hypocrite, which is why I feel like it's a waste of time if you get in a back and forth with these morons when you calling out this blatant racism and they have whatever excuses or justifications. Like they've made it clear that they are hypocrites and they're proud hypocrites and they state it as such. So again, stop giving a fuck about what these people say. They are pieces of shit. The way they're reacting to this season, you can guarantee that's the same way they react to everything in their lives. You can guarantee these were the same ones cheerleading all of the looting and burning that was going on last year, but condemning the rioting that went down on the Capitol. They aren't consistent at all. And they clearly don't give a fuck about it because they state that they're hypocrites. That's why I love this season, because it's exposing to people who haven't been exposed to these kinds of people, because they exist in every space now. You go to the video game industry, they're there in the video game industry. They're in the movie industry, in scripted TV shows, in tabletop gaming, in the knitting world. In schools, you see these psycho teachers making all of these posts. Like they are everywhere with their hypocritical bullshit when they're condoning blatant bigotry, but yet they're self proclaimed anti bigots. But they're hypocrites about it. And this Twitter account, which has over 4,000 followers, so they're a popular person in Big Brother Twitter, has stated as much that they are hypocrites about everything. And then you go into the veto meeting, or leading up to the veto meeting, where Tiffany has a conversation with Claire. And basically, this is after she has told Claire she was going up, where she sobbed like a baby, by the way. And of course, the reactions on Twitter was like, "Oh, this is so sweet. Why couldn't it have been, Tyler or Paul instead of calling this shit out for what it is," which was blatant racism. Because there's no logical reason why Tiffany is putting up Claire right now. None. Like, this is her final two. It's her final two. If she was playing a non-racist game, she would obviously put up Kylan. Have Kylan next to Xavier. Kylan gets voted out, and she goes into a final seven with two of her final twos, because she has one with Hannah and she has one with Claire. And with, mostly females, putting herself in the best position to where the only opposition that she would probably have would be a Derek F, who would be mad because his crush Kylan has been voted out, but Derek F can't win anything. And then you would have Xavier, probably your only credible opposition. And she would be sitting pretty. But anyone who covers the game, who provides uh, analysis for the game, they can't state the game reason, the solid strategy reason for this move. It's solely based on her being white. And there's no other way to explain it. So, which is why I say once again, all of these people, who have Big Brother podcasts, who cover Big Brother, are fucking cowards if they don't call this bullshit out. But, if you listen to Puya of Rob Has a Podcast, Claire has to suffer for what Gina Marie did or said. Claire has to suffer for what Aaron said or did. Imagine the fucking logic behind that. These people in the hood, they behave this sort of way. So that entire race has to suffer for how a few people behave in certain areas in the country. You see? It's the same fucking logic. But that's what these Big Brother podcasters are endorsing. But anyway, she cried her eyes out, but she ultimately forgave her because Claire, again, is another one of these white liberal dumbasses who's just willing to flog themselves and sacrifice themselves for a racist cause that goes against them. And it doesn't keep them safe. It doesn't keep them safe at all. I mean, hell, just ask a woman by the name of Annette Kimchi, a criminologist who had a study asserting that black murderers are unfairly punished. And then she was in Chicago and got shanked to death by a homeless black murderer. I mean, I guess she got the conclusion on her study. But this is what the Claires of the world and the woke white libtards of the world represent. People who are setting themselves to get fucked up. And I feel zero sympathy for them. But I'm just calling it out because you have to call out the racism, even if the person that's the victim of the racism is too fucking retarded to acknowledge it themselves. But the fact of the matter is, she was aware of it because all the way back in August, August 19th, she had a conversation with DX about it in the bathroom. They figured out the cookout. And even Alyssa, who has somehow been convinced she had something to do with tricking Tiffany into putting up Claire. I mean, this chick is dumb. Her and Christian fit together because they both fucking stupid. Like, she was having a conversation with Derek F, suggesting that she's a genius. Now, again, for her sake, I hope she's playing dumb, but I doubt that she is. But she's aware of it because, again, Christian, her showmance in the house talked about it. Again, even though he's playing dumb now outside of the house. But, over 3 weeks ago, damn near a month ago, she was made aware of it by Christian. But, this is the season of Big Brother that we've received, where it's not just overtly racist, but we aren't even getting good gameplay because this is a horrible move. But that's what playing a bigoted base game gets you. You can't make moves for yourself, which is why Kylan said he wants a second chance because he's not playing a real game. And people reacted to this move also unfavorably because they're ready for the male members of the cookout to go. You know, you even had Miss Black Lives Matter herself, Devon, talk about how, you know, she would get rid of Xavier. The dumbass who's been in the house kissing her ass and praising her, doesn't matter to her. She wants him out now. And I think that's why they enable people like Devon. I mean, she was evicted second in Big Brother 17. No reason to bring her back. They've never brought someone back before that was evicted that early. But I think they saw in her the type of pawns that they love to use. You know, the people who will play up to the narrative of all the stereotypes, you know, the behavior, the manner of speaking, and also playing racial victim 24/7 while simultaneously always wanting to be in front of the camera and have deals with those same so-called racist organizations. I mean, they love exploiting that type, and Devon has made it clear she's that type to easily be exploited. You know, she will prop up bullshit like Black Lives Matter, you know, while simultaneously going after black males. Utter fucking joke. But again, through Julie Chen, CBS has officially co-signed this racist alliance. Which is why, if you're truly offended by this, you know, cut the cord. I mean, that's been happening in droves. Cut the cord, but also do not support any of these streaming services. I mean, I pirate every goddamn thing. Everything. Don't go to the movie theaters. Don't have a single streaming service. Anything you want to see is available online for free. Because these people don't deserve your fucking money. You know, advertising a show like this, you know, Big Brother 23, the racist season, it only seeks to racially instigate and antagonize the public. You know, and the fact that people like Julie Chen just dismiss, you know, other people who are reacting to this unfavorably. Because also a part of this interview, she makes it seem like it's just white people who are complaining about this alliance. So I don't exist. You know, someone like Metro D doesn't exist. And many others who aren't so called white don't exist. They won't acknowledge your existence. Like, that's how fucking dismissive they are. Like, they won't even acknowledge people who aren't white that are reacting unfavorable to this bullshit. Which again brings me back to 2013 and her reacting to Aaron. Full of shit, Julie Chen. You were full of shit because you're endorsing the racist treatment of this season, which has been far more explicit than in 15. Because I'm sure you're not going to call out Tiffany for her racist statements towards Derek Xiao about, you know, asking, oh, you're so good with math. Was your teacher Asian? I guess Julie Chen is okay with that. Utterly fucking pathetic, but that's what this season has been. And the only good thing about it is that it continues to expose the woke racism of the mainstream to another set of viewers. Because if you don't follow comics, if you don't follow comic book movies or television shows or other genres of entertainment, you may not be aware that, you know, Disney is currently running a racist program which they call Reimagine Tomorrow. You know, maybe you're unaware that Warner Bros. Has hired one of the co-founders of BLM, who's been a proven Marxist that has money hustled her way into a white neighborhood, of course, with her white lesbian spouse. So it's good that CBS is just exposing more of this bullshit to more people. And all of these mainstream companies, the 6 major media companies that exist, they're all pushing this racial antagonizing bullshit and then pretending that it's not racist at all. Again, insidious, sick motherfuckers involved with all of this shit, which is why I pirate all of this shit. So fuck them. They'll never get any single penny from me ever again. And for the podcasters and alumni who don't call this shit out, fuck you too. You're a fucking coward.